I am a Trinidadian, born and raised in Port of Spain, Trinidad, a third world urchin. Grew up on the streets of Trinidad eating off the fruit trees for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. My mother didn't want to see us till the sun went down, so that was fun. But I am in my 6th decade of life. I know I don't look it, I know, I understand. But I'm starting to ask the big questions. Like, what is my legacy? What is my gift? I've done a lot in my life, and I have tremendous power. I'm the 4th of 7 children, so my voice never needs a microphone. They have me double mic'd for whatever reason. But the point is that who am I? What do I do? And then Picasso, Pablo, our friend, Pablo Picasso, he said, you know, the meaning of life is to find your gift. And the purpose in life is to give it away. And I know I'm giving away something, but I'm trying to define what it is. And I think it has something to do with fire. I think I'm an arsonist. I think I'm a good arsonist. But I guess my strength is I want everybody to be an arsonist. And so the reason I refer to this arsonist thing is that people tell me a lot, man, you've really influenced me. Man, your ripple effect is something else. Man, and I'm like telling them, so is yours. And my biggest advice to people in every field is do not underestimate your power to influence change. We each have that power. It's for us to recognize it as a gift and to give it away. I picked 2 very easy things to fix in life: the climate crisis and education. So my work is cut out for me. And it's really hard to spur change when the systems that exist do not want them to change. And I don't know if it's a Trinidadian in me that when I am confronted with a problem, we do not throw up our hands, we roll up our sleeves. And the reason I refer to this is when people tell me, well, what do you think the best definition of education is? I tell them, you know, it came from this dead Irish poet, William Butler Yeats. But here's how he defined education. He said, education is not the filling of a pail. It is the lighting of a fire. Hello? So I was supposed to be a doctor. I was a bright girl. I got good grades. I got scholarships to college. My brother ahead of me was a doctor. We were in Trinidad, but we were sent to Canada because it was a Commonwealth country to go to college there. And I wanted to be a teacher. I was so inspired by my high school biology teacher, Raymond Yo, a Chinese Trinidadian guy, who walked into the classroom without a book, without a note, and he just lit that class on fire. And all of biology made sense to me, and I'm like going, I want to do that. And my mom was like, girl, you're going to be a doctor. And it was like, you know how alcoholics have interventions? She did a little bit of that. You had every doctor in the family call me and talk to me and whip me into shape. So going back up to college in Canada in my 2nd year, I'm on the plane, and you got to understand, they sent you to college in September, and you didn't come home till May. And there was none of cell phones, none of this stuff. So I'm on the plane going, they want me to be a doctor, and I want to be a teacher. And then I'm like going, they won't know what my major is. And so I kept my education major, and I made a promise to my mom. I said, Mom, I will teach hundreds and thousands of kids to be doctors, but let me teach. She had no choice because I was majoring in education. So the idea of who has influenced me, it's my mom. My mom raised 7 of us with the motto, hate me now, love me later. And she was from Trinidad of Lebanese ancestry, And she was freewheeling with those little slaps, you know? And for her, every syllable was a slap. How many times have I told you not? And so it went. My brother, Brian, got bigger than my mom, and he would just grab her hand when she was doing that thing. And she would say, "Keep it brief, Mom." I, of course, did the same thing. We have two beautiful daughters who sat me down when they were in high school and said, "Mom, you know what your problem is?" I said, "Oh, enlighten me. What is my problem?" They go, "You love us too much." I say, "Guilty, yeah." If that's my sin, I'm good. But I use the same hate me now, love me later that my mom used with us, with them. And now that one of them has a kid, oh, she is me reincarnated. Make no mistake. It's a hate me now, love me later world in her household. But the idea is I knew my I was a high school science teacher, high school principal. I know how hard it is to raise teenagers, even good ones. And I remember thinking to myself, well, they're going to be influenced by a lot of people. I want to be one. So I weighed in very heavily on all the issues we talked about. I shared my opinion and my logic openly and readily. Other parents like going, "Why did you do that? Aren't you influencing them?" I said, "I hope so." So the thing I have come to terms with, perhaps, to answer Picasso's question, is maybe my gift is influence, believing in motivating, inspiring others, and a willingness to be inspired and motivated and influenced by others. With that gift, I want each of you to embrace your power to influence change. So the people who have affected me include William Butler Yeats talking about education as lighting fires, not filling pails. It's Jane Goodall, who in 2002, opening article in Time magazine, her opening phrase was, "The greatest danger to our future is apathy." What was she telling me? More fire, right? So the idea of this ripple effect and exciting people and motivating people has come to be a part of me. I've also been inspired, influenced by John Burroughs, who said, "Leap and the net will appear." You've heard that one? It's a good one. You know when you're in a slump and the people you're working with aren't doing a thing, and you feel like life is about much more than this nonsense? You gotta leap and the net will appear. I did that 3 times in my life with employers that were getting on my last nerve. And each time it was scary and dangerous and cost me a lot of money in terms of income that I was walking away from, but I persisted. Another influence in my life is a saying, we have no idea who came up with it, but the exchange goes like this. If somebody ever tells you, "Be careful not to bite off more than you can chew," your response should be, "Well, I would rather choke on greatness than nibble on mediocrity." Ooh. And I'm like going, no mediocrity for me, that's not happening. And then the final one that brings me back to today's talk is the American Indian proverb that says, "We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children." So I have a granddaughter now. I have 2 beautiful daughters. I want the world to be good for them. I want to leave it better than I found it. I don't think I will. That hurts. So every morning I wake up, I can stay in bed and rock myself back to sleep with depression and despair, or I could get up to fight another day, to be inspired by others and to inspire others. So this whole idea of being able to influence is something I want us to embrace collectively. It is true that our ripple effect will never be known. You do not know who you have influenced in your life. When I do teacher talks and teacher trainings, I tell them, Let's take 5 minutes. I want you to write down the names of everybody you influenced that you did not know. I call them the I never knew stories. When people come back to visit us and say, you know, Mrs. Lewis, that day when you told me that I belong at this school changed my life forever. And I'm like, really? I was just in passing. I was like, yo, Marissa, you belong here, you know. And, and so the idea that we have a ripple effect far beyond our own knowledge is something you have to embrace. Another thing I learned in a school, this therapist came in to talk to the faculty who was getting a little unbent about something. The faculty was unbent, and this therapist was saying, look, we all have two circles, a circle of concern and a circle of influence. And if your circle of concern is much bigger than your circle of influence in that area, you got to do one or two things. You got to shrink your circle of concern or grow your circle of influence. Well, what do you think I did? So I decided that my concern with education was strong enough for me to write a book. I didn't have time, but I wanted effective teachers to recognize themselves in my writing and to stay in the profession. The climate crisis was eating me alive. The climate scientists in Miami-Dade, where I live, Miami-Dade County, Florida, were having hissy fits. And so in 2010, because my circle of concern on the climate crisis was so big, I had to create a circle of influence. And that circle of influence in climate became the Cleo Institute. Now, Cleo is a nonprofit. The acronym CLEO stands for Climate Leadership Through Education and Engagement Opportunities. Now, you know what I mean by education, right? Lighting fires. So the whole purpose of Cleo is to influence people, to embrace the climate crisis, and to see themselves as part of the solution. The mission for the Cleo Institute is to get everybody to take it seriously. And the vision is a world in which we don't even need to exist as a Cleo Institute because everybody gets it and is acting on it. I think that the science and the urgency of the science should be enough to wake us all up, but it's not. So then we talk about the justice issues. And quite frankly, if you don't care about the justice issues, I don't want to be your friend. Because it's not just about sea level rise, which is like a gateway drug down here in Florida to talk about the climate crisis. Sea level rise is a huge problem. Ice is melting. We can get 20 feet pretty soon. We can get 200 feet if everything melts at the poles. But it's also about what a warming world means. It means that salt water is intruding. It means plants can't grow anymore. Food crops are being compromised. So the need for us to look beyond sea level rise to heat and health and food and water vulnerability, looking to the impact of displacement and migration, and using our influence to move it. How am I going to get the public-private partnerships going, where the economic and political engines are heeding the science, understanding the justice issues, and doing something? We've got to make that come together for them. And we have to inspire each other. So everybody wants me on their committees and their advisory teams, and I just make noise. I said, okay, another map, okay, we have more vulnerability. Where are the solutions? And so the idea is if we have situations where heat is killing people and they don't have air conditions, I want the data on which homes don't have air conditioning, and I want a map of solutions. Chambers of Commerce, who's going to help me with this street, making sure they have at least one working AC unit that you're going to pay for? And we can map those solutions and get people excited. You see that, right? So the justice lens and the science lens need to wake up the political and economic world. The Cleo Institute creates multiple access points for people to engage. So we are constantly trying to enable the movement. One time, we were outside one of our city commission buildings, and the kids were in tandem with Greta Thunberg picketing to declare a climate emergency. And the mayor came out and wanted to talk to the kids. And I said, great, let's do this, Mayor. And so the kids were all hovering around him saying, will you declare a climate emergency? And one of the kids rolled out, JP. He rolled out of the group. He goes, oh man, Caroline, he's not hearing us. I said, JP, this is the first time anybody ever asked him that question. You get back in there and keep talking. Again, I use my influence, my bold-facedness, to push this kid to understand his influence. And guess what? Not even 2 months later, that mayor was at a podium declaring a climate emergency. So it is about knowing your power to influence change and your power to influence others to use their influence. We have to stop being so passive. This is not a time on this planet for us to be passive. I would like us to remember what Picasso is telling us. What's your gift? Do you know your gift? Okay, you're not in your 6th decade of life yet, but start thinking about it. And whatever your gift is, I'd like you to add ripple effect, influence, inspiring to that, because that is everybody's gift, if you're willing to embrace it. Your power to influence change and to remember your purpose in life about giving it away and waking people up is something we can't measure. It's immeasurable. And if anybody ever tells you, I can't do that, you can't do that, you're biting off more than you can chew. You know what your answer's gonna be. Repeat after me. Well, I'd rather choke on greatness than nibble on mediocrity. All together now. Well, I'd rather choke on greatness than nibble on mediocrity. So I would like to end this by saying, here's to the greatness in all of us. And may you influence way beyond your capacity, and may your ripple effect never end. Thank you so much.